Hello everyone, my name's Kat and I'm coming to you from Melbourne in Australia. This is episode 3 of the Mindful Melbourne Maker podcast. This is my YouTube channel where I share all about the things that I'm making, mostly knitting, but we actually do have some crochet today. So yeah, that's what we're sharing. Welcome to all the new viewers and welcome back for those people that have watched my first 2 episodes. You can find me on Instagram as at mindful.melbourne.maker and on Ravelry as Kath S. Martin and my patterns on Ravelry as Kath Martin Designs. We also have a Ravelry group for the podcast, which I'll put the link down below in the description box. So all the information about everything that I talk about will be in the description box. If you just click more, you'll be able to see all of the information drop down with lots of links. So there's a Ravelry group for the podcast, which you can feel free to join. The link is down below. And there's some FO threads in the Ravelry group as well. For if you're knitting up any of my patterns, feel free to pop them in there and share. And just a reminder that I have Ravelry project pages for all of my projects. That's how I keep all the information for my projects. So if you're ever wanting information about the yarn or the needles or any changes that I made, I keep really detailed notes and they're all in the Ravelry project pages. So welcome. So the last 2 weeks in Melbourne, it's been really cold, which is lovely. But it's been sunny mostly as well, which has been really nice. I ended up going last weekend with my husband to Wollongarook, which is about 45 minutes from here in country Victoria for the Wool and Fibre Day. So I'll tell you more about that later. And just got a lot of making done. And we're currently wrapping up the test knit for my new pattern, the Canberra Socks, which should be coming out next week. So that test knit group has been heaps of fun. Big thank you to all my test knitters. That's the first test knit I've ever run. So it's been lots of fun, lots of learning and lots of sharing of really interesting information. So that's been really good as well. So we'll get on to what I'm wearing, which is also my first finished object. So my first FO. So this is the Stockholm sweater by Patil Knits. I was working on this in the last episode. It was a WIP and it's knit up in 4-ply merino, so fingering weight merino, held with suri alpaca silk, both from Fibersmith in Victoria and both in the colour emerald. So I'll put some video of me wearing it so you can see the whole thing a bit better. But it worked up in the end really well, really quickly, really easily. I think last week I showed you I had picked up and knit the neckband. It was a little bit loose and floppy. So I did redo that since the last episode. And I did both. I picked up and knit both sleeve band things. And then there was just virtually nothing left to do. That, you know, I just knit the rest of the body and did the ribbing. It was really quick. So it's pretty much as per pattern, but I did shorten these sections by 2 repeats. So I knit, you start at the back and I knit the back and I measured my gauge. I did a gauge swatch, but as I was knitting, I like to check that my gauge is still on point. And I noticed that my row gauge was a bit bigger than what the pattern said. And so it was likely that I was going to end up with sort of deeper armholes and a bit longer. So on the back, the instructions tell you to knit to a particular length, which I did. And I noticed that it was actually 1 increase less. So I cast on for the extra large, but I ended up with a size that was between large and extra large. And then on the front, to sort of match the fact that I'd done fewer increases on the back, I cut out 2 increases on each of these sides in the front sections. And it just meant that the armholes are not really, really gapey. They're just really nice. It fits really, really well. It's lovely and soft and warm. And yeah, I did Italian sewn bind off on all of the bind offs. I've done it a lot, so I quite enjoy it. You get into a really good rhythm with it. But the video tutorial that I use to remind myself of what I need to do each time is actually a Brooklyn Tweed YouTube video. I find it, I've tried a few. This one's the most straightforward and easiest to follow. And so I'll link that one below in case you're a bit hesitant about Italian sewn bind off. It's actually really, really easy and it gives you a really nice finish. So that's my Stockholm sweater by Patil Knits, and I cast that on the 9th of March and I finished it on the 10th of May. So yeah, it's just really nice. And I was knitting this with we cast on together. My mother-in-law, Belinda's also knitting this. She's not quite as far because I'm a bit more of a prolific knitter than her, but no pressure. You keep knitting. It'll be okay. So the needles I use for this are just as per the pattern, 4.5mm and 3.5mm for the ribbing. So that's that one. So that's my first finished object. My second finished object I was working on last week, and it's the pair of fluffy Canberra socks that I knit for my daughter. So this is the pattern that is coming out next week. It's the testing is finishing up, and this is a DK weight pair of socks, but this one is knit with fingering weight and a strand of silk mohair held together. This pair of Canberra socks, there's lots of options in the pattern, as I talked about in the last episode, but this pair I knitted with a 1x1 twisted rib, and then with an eye of partridge heel and a Dutch heel turn. So it's more of a square heel turn, which is really, really comfortable. My daughter really likes that, and that one goes finished up really quickly. So that's that pair there. And the yarn that I'm using, it was bare yarn that I hand dyed myself, so you can't get this. That was one of my hand dyeing experiments. So yeah, lots of fun, that one. So that was the second finished object. And then because the test knit was still going for the Canberra socks, I thought, well, I made the stripy pair, which I showed you last episode, I made the fluffy pair. The other yarn option was to hold 2 strands of fingering weight 4-ply yarn together to get the DK weight or 8-ply gauge. So I thought, well, I'll just cast on a pair in that yarn option as well, just to, you know, keep going. They're super, super quick. So this pair I cast on the 25th of April and I finished on the 4th of May. So that just took a little bit. I tend to do them in between other things. And then I cast on and finished a pair of Scrappy socks. And this is the Canberra socks pattern. So these are, they're not self-striping, they're Scrappy. So I picked out basically all the pink and orange yarn that I could find in my scraps bucket in fingering weight, and I held for the cuff and the heel and the toe, I held 2 different colours of scraps together just to give it that mild effect, and then I held 2 strands of the same colour for each of these stripes. And so this option is, as I said, 2 strands of fingering weight held together. The cuff is a 1x1 rib, so normal rib. It's got a garter stitch heel flap and the Dutch heel turn, and of course the French heel turn is also in the pattern, as well as just the normal slip stitch heel. And for this I did how many rows? 8 rows in each of the stripes with the different yarn. And I did the no jog trick where you knit, when you are changing colours, you knit around in the new colour, and when you get to the first stitch of that new colour in the next round, you actually pick up the right leg of the stitch below, pop it up onto the left hand needle, and then you knit that strand in with the first stitch. You knit them together just on that first stitch, and it just lifts that row up of the old color, just so there's less of a jog. And this is the side, that's the side that has the jogs or no jogs, as you can see. So yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And that pair, so I knit the fluffy pair for my daughter, the original stripy pair for my son, and this pair is for me. So we each have a pair, which is very exciting. So, and they just knit up so quickly. This one took less than a week, so very satisfying. And the last finished object was a work in progress in the last episode. These are the Find the Joy socks. So got two there. So this is a pattern, Find the Joy socks. This is a pattern by Kay Litton, the crazy sock lady. And as I explained last time, the pattern itself was just not as mindless as what I was looking for when I wanted to knit these socks. And the texture of the sock, which is in the leg there, is supposed to go down the entire sock. But it is quite rough, and I didn't enjoy knitting it, and I didn't think that my daughter would want that in her shoes when she's, it would be irritating. So at this point I stopped that pattern and I just followed my Melbourne Socks pattern for the remainder of the sock. So it's a bit of a mix and match pattern. But this yarn is Frankie Grey Fibres in the Lover colourway, which is inspired by the Taylor Swift album cover art. And the minis used for the heels, toes and cuffs are minis that I dyed myself, and they just happen to match the colour in the yarn really well. So those are the Find the Joy socks. So they're done as well. So I managed to finish off quite a few pairs of socks, and now I don't have a sock whip, which is very unlike me, but you'll see I have filled that gap with something else. So you'll see in a moment. Now, before we go on to works in progress, I did want to announce the giveaway winner from last episode. So last episode I showed you a skein of yarn that I had. It's one of the first skeins I ever tried to hand dye, and it's just an absolute riot of colours. So I asked you to comment on the last video to enter in for this giveaway, and if you had any suggestions for names, and there were just some really great names in that. Obviously I'm not selling this, so it doesn't matter so much, but I did a random comment picker thing from the comments in the last episode, and the winner is Jenny Dalling. And I think that's another Victorian knitter. So hello, Jenny. So if you can reach out to me on email, so my email is mindfulmelbournemaker@gmail.com. It'll be in the description box below. But if you reach out to me on email and just let me know your postal address, I will post out your really fun skein of yarn. So yeah, so that's the giveaway winner. So let's move to works in progress. So there were some ups and downs in the last episode, and one of those opportunities for learning that I mentioned in the last episode was my Bubbles and Brioche shawl by Stephen West. So this is being held in my doggo bag by Patil Knits, and this shawl is one of my Advent projects. So I'm using the Hodgepodge Skeins Advent from 2023 for this shawl, and I had actually knit quite a way. So I'd finished the second bubble section in the last episode, but then when I did a stitch count I realized I was 40 to 50 stitches off, which I'm still blown away as to how that happened. But I had identified that I had missed an increased row way back straight after the first sort of bubble section, I'd missed an increase row right here. So I had talked about that I would have to rip back all the way back to here, do that increase row, and then re-knit all of that. Now, I'm very much a process knitter, so the thought of doing that doesn't put me off, doesn't scare me, because I just really like the process. I love knitting. If I enjoy the end result and I use it, that's great, but I love the process of knitting, which is why I always have a million WIPs, because I need to enjoy what I'm working on and be interested by it. Otherwise, I'd pick up something else. So after the last episode, I took a few days to kind of build up my strength, and then I ripped back. So I popped in a lifeline, and there was a really great comment. Thank you so much. There was a great comment on the last video, which I don't know if it was specifically to do what I did, but it gave me the idea. And what the person that commented said was something similar had happened to them, and they had ripped back, not necessarily to the point where they missed the increase, but to somewhere where it made sense to add in that increase. And having a look at this shawl, where I missed the increase row was here. But this whole section, I mean, it's quite a lot, and it would have been annoying to re-knit, but it's also garter. So it's super, super stretchy. So instead of ripping back to the beginning of this section, what I thought and what I've done is I ripped back to the end. So I ripped back to the final dark blue. So you'll see you can sort of see that's dark blue. I ripped back to that line there, and I re-knit that final white garter stripe and added in the increase into that row instead, because I thought I can just block it out so that it's the right shape. It's only a little bit of space where I don't have the right stitch count, and as long as I'm back on track here, it should all work out. And so that's what I did. Obviously I had a different stitch count, so I couldn't follow the exact increase pattern that Stephen West had in the pattern for that row, because there were more stitches. So what I used was, there's a knitting increase calculator that's just on the internet that is free. You can just use it. I'll link that below in case you want to use it, because it's really, really useful. So you just put in what your stitch count is now, and then how many you want to increase by, and then it calculates an even increase rate, and you just follow that. So that's what I did. I increased, so by the time I got back to popping in that first row of the bubbles, I was back on track. And so I've been fastidiously counting so that I don't get off track. But I have redone that first bubble row, and as you can see, I've added in one row of the new color just so that those bubbles were formed, because that's very satisfying. But yeah, so that's where I'm up to. So I sort of went back in time on this one. It's not as far progressed as it was last time, but I've fixed the issue without too much drama, and yeah, I'm really going to love the result now. So that's the most important thing. So that's my Bubbles and Brioche shawl. And that one I cast on the 3rd of April. So that one's going to take a little bit longer, I think. Now this one, half and half triangles wrap. I have been working on this, I would say, almost every day. I think I only missed 1 or 2 days. So this is in one of the bags that I made. The pattern for this bag, I do link it, or I've popped the name of it down below. So if you are a sewist and you want to make bags, this is a great pattern. So this is my eternal half and half triangles wrap. So this is a free pattern by Pearl Soho, and I'm making it in the called for yarn, which I almost never do. This is linen quill, and this is the color Pink Pop, and this is dark denim. And I am so close to being finished, and yet so far. So I've finished the first triangle, which is this pink one. So that's finished. You'll see it's gonna be huge. You don't really realize that when you're knitting it because it's all scrunched up, but it is very large. And this is the second triangle. So this is where I was last time with my Mavis handmade, Mavis Castlemaine stitch marker, little skull. It's very cute. And you can see with tiny needles and very thin yarn how much I've actually knit. It's a massive amount, but I still have endless numbers of stitches. So there's not too many. It doesn't look like too many, but I think last time I had about 60 stitches to pick up. I now have, this stitch marker is motivating me towards 30, so that's 30, 2, 4, 6, 8, so 38 stitches to pick up. I timed myself knitting last night one row kind of there and back again, where you do the pickup and you turn around and go back. And that one row took 20 minutes, and that was uninterrupted, dedicated, not picking up my phone, not being asked questions by the kids. So 20 minutes times 38, that's still hours of knitting. It looks so tiny, it looks almost finished, but it's hours of knitting. So I'll just keep going. I'm hoping by the next episode to finish this, but if I only sort of get halfway, that's still a lot of knitting and I'll be very pleased with myself. But wouldn't it be amazing if fairies came in the middle of the night and knit this bit for me? Anyone volunteering? So yes, so that one, as I said last time, I cast that on on the 1st of January last year, 2023, because it was part of a knit along, and it has just taken so long. And it's not because I'm a process knitter, it's a bit boring once you get to the really long rows. So I'm just trying to get through to the end now, which is good. So the third one is a bit exciting because you haven't seen it before. That doesn't mean it's a new cast on though. So this is one of my lingering WIPs that I've actually just pulled out with a bit of motivation to try and get some work done on it and maybe even finish it off. So this is in a friend's bag that I made from that same pattern. So the fabric's just from Spotlight. And this is the Weekender by Andrea Mowry. So it's the worsted weight version of the Weekender and not the crew neck, just the original Weekender. I'm knitting it in Drops Air, which is this blown yarn, and it's in the wheat color, which is a really nice sort of dappled kind of heathered yarn. It's just beautifully soft, really, really, really soft. And this one has been sitting for a very long time with all of the, so you knit it from the bottom up, which is the first thing that stumps me in terms of progress, because it's just, you can't try it on, it's kind of boring, you have to knit all the body first. But I knitted the ribbing, I knitted the body in the round until you split. I had knit the front all the way and had done the bind off for the front. And then I was in the process of endlessly knitting that same thing but on the back, and it just got put down and I just couldn't find the motivation to pick it up. But with the DRK March to May knit along, which Andrea Mowry runs every year, which you can basically knit any sweater or shawl or sort of big one of her patterns and sort of, you know, take part. I just thought, well, I'm not going to enter to win prizes or anything because I probably won't finish, but it's very good motivation to pick up those things that are just sitting in the corner, not getting worked on. So I picked it up, and in the last week I finished off the back and I joined the shoulders, and so now I'm up to the sleeves. So I'm hoping now that this one will actually go quite quickly because the sleeves, it's a drop shoulder design. This is actually the neck, so it's a sort of boat neck drop shoulder, and I'm knitting the size 5 and everything's as per the pattern. So yeah, so you knit it, it's got a split hem and the back is ever so slightly longer than the front, but not by a lot. And then you knit up in the round until you get to the armhole sleeve openings, and then you split and knit the front up, and then you knit the back, and then you join over the shoulders with a 3 needle bind off. So that's the shoulder seam there, and then you just have the parts that you don't join are just the neck hole. So it is going to sort of sit up against my neck, but it is very, very soft, so I think it's going to be okay. And so yeah, so I finished that, and in the end, of course, as it always is, it really didn't take that long to do the little bit that I had been procrastinating for months. Never mind. So I cast this on the 5th of June last year. So let's see if I can get it done within June this year. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? So after I joined both shoulders, I've tried it on. It fits pretty well. I've actually lost a little bit of weight since I cast this on, so it's probably going to be just extra oversized, but that's okay. I think it'll be good. And I have picked up for the sleeve, and I've knit just a few rounds, as you can see. But I think because it's drop shoulder and so oversized, I don't think there's going to be much, like the sleeve will be pretty short, so it shouldn't take too long. So maybe I can have some really good progress on that one in the next episode. I may not get it finished by the end of the knit along, but I'm just pleased to have it out again and have it on the road to being finished. So that's very exciting. So do you have any of those kind of lingering sweater projects that you just need that motivation to finish? Maybe you can take this as a bit of a motivator and finish a jumper with me. So that's my weekender. My next one. So I didn't show this last episode, and I got a question about it saying, "Where's this up to?" Because I hadn't picked it up in the 2 weeks between the first and second episode. I hadn't touched it because I was focused on the 24 Birds shawl, which I finished. So I have now gone back to my glittering snowscape shawl by Stephen West. So this was the Hyber knit along pattern that Stephen put out last year, which there's a knit along that goes along with the pattern. It's not a mystery, you see the pattern, and everybody casts on Boxing Day, December 26th, I think. I didn't. I cast on the 15th of January. And why I cast this on was because I thought the way that the design was, it was actually perfect for using an advent. So as I mentioned, I'm knitting this up in my Fibersmith advent from 2023, which was all blues and greys and really cool colors. And it's just turning out so beautifully. It's just it was such a fun shawl to knit. All the sections are different lace patterns, ribbing, texture. There's some, not garter, but rest rows where there's sort of, fairly plain knitting. And you can see that it's not a fade per se, but it's from sort of lights to darks through the various colors. And then what I'm up to is, as I mentioned last time, the border, which I think in the original shawl, Stephen has one color, and then each of these eyelet rows is a different color. I didn't have, because I used an advent, I didn't have enough of one color to do that. So I'm actually using 5 different colors, and I'm hoping I don't run out. We'll see how I go, because I am getting pretty low. But I'm using 5 different colors, and I'm just sort of fading those colors and then repeating those. So I think last time, where was I? Where's my little sheep? So I've got my little marker from where I was last time I showed you, and I have knit, how many have I knit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on my 13th border stripe. And so what I have left, it looks like a lot, but it goes relatively quickly. I'm past halfway. So halfway was back here somewhere, maybe here. So I'm past halfway. So I reckon if I keep at this, I should be able to finish off the border in the next few weeks. Maybe not 2 weeks, but maybe 3, maybe 4. But yeah, looking forward to having this done because it's absolutely beautiful. But as I said, I'm a process knitter, so there's no rush in my head. It's just enjoy the process of the border, and it's just really fun to sort of pick out the next color each time it comes up. So yes, so hoping I don't run out of yarn, but we'll see how I go. So that's glittering snowscape, and I'm doing that on a 3.75 millimeter needle, which I think the pattern's probably 3.5. Stephen's, compared to me, a fairly loose knitter. I'm not super tight, but I'm tighter than him, so I always like to just go up 1 needle size for his shawls just to give me the drape and the size. So yeah, so that one's going along well. Now the next one you haven't seen, and it's actually crochet. So I'm not a huge crocheter. I like crocheting blankets, and I've done some amigurumi and things. And so I can do basic stitch, and I'm pretty much self-taught, so I just look up videos and work it out. But I saw Ali from Little Drops of Wonderful. I watch her channels, and she's been making a virus shawl, which I thought, well, that looks a bit more complicated. There's a bit more patterning. There's a bit more to sort of work out, but she did, I think in one of her episodes, threw down the challenge and sort of said, oh, this is one of those patterns that you can't really call yourself a crocheter if you haven't made it. Apparently it's sort of in that realm. So I thought, well, now I have to make it. And so I dug through my stash, and I found a skein of yarn that I had bought because I loved the colours, but I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. So this is Noro, and it's Silk Garden Sock in the colour inventively named S493. But it's this beautiful greens and pinks and greys. It's just lovely. And so I grabbed a skein when I was at a yarn shop, and then it kind of sat in my stash. And I thought this would be perfect for the virus shawl because it would sort of go through the colours, and I'd be able to use up, you know, this lovely yarn. As it turns out, I had to buy a second skein because one skein just wasn't going to give me the size of shawl that I was looking for. So the I used, sorry, there's builders. I'm just gonna ooh. Sorry about that. There's builders next door and they're being very noisy. So this project's in another bag that I got from Patil Knits. I actually won this bag off her Instagram channel, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm using a 4mm clover hook, G hook. I really like these hooks. They work really well for me. And I started off using the Bella Coco video that instructs you how to make the virus shawl, and I'll link that below. But I also then got step-by-step in-person guidance from my friend in knit group, Sylvia, who I'll also link her Instagram below because she is an amazing crocheter. She absolutely knows what she's doing. So she helped me, and this is where I got to. So it looks, those colors look so good. Just really, really enjoying the process, enjoying the sort of rhythm you get into and the pattern. And it's not too difficult once you've sort of worked out what the pattern is and how, you know, it's quite easy to memorize and you can kind of look back and see. And this has used up maybe 2/3 of a skein. So I've used 2/3 of a skein. I've got one more full skein to go. So it's going to be quite a good size, which is good. That's what I'm after. And yeah, the virus shawl. It's so good. And it goes really quickly. That's the great thing about crochet. I really enjoy how quickly it goes. So I should have good progress on that one for the next episode, because it's fun to just pick up and do a little bit of that. So yes, thank you, Sylvia, for teaching me how to do that one. Now the next project is also a new cast on. It's also in a new bag. And it's my replacement for my sock whips. So I don't have any socks on the needles right now, but I do have some mitts. So this project is in a new bag from Crystal Cat Stitchery, which I got at the Wool and Fibre Day in Wollongorrook. I couldn't go past the fluoro pink little crescents. They're just gorgeous. So these are I've had this pattern for a while. These are the Hearten mitts. So it's quite cold in Melbourne at the moment. My hands have been cold and I thought, wouldn't mind a pair of mitts. And I wanted to use up one of my Advent from previous years where this is leftovers. So this is just a container from Kmart, which has 24 boxes. So it's clearly made for yarn advents. And it's the leftovers from my Louie and Lola 2022 Advent, which was the Cozy Country Advent. So the colors are really moody, they're just lovely, and the yarn is beautiful. It's really lovely and soft. And so I'm making the adult size of the Hearten mitts, and that is where I'm up to at the moment. So it's got a lovely twisted rib and it's top down, which is unusual. Most of the mitts I've made have been sort of, you start here and go up. These are top down, so it's got a lovely sort of lace pattern on the front, but the rest, yeah, it's going to be really lovely. And so I haven't done too much, but you can already see the color progression. I'm onto the 5th color, and there will be a million ends, but that's okay. That's all right. So yeah, so that's a fun one, and that's just as a bit of a dupe for a sock whip. And then my last whip is actually, it's a new work in progress, but I didn't cast it on. So does it count as a new whip? Maybe not, maybe it doesn't. But this is actually a jumper that my mum was knitting, and she can knit, she's quite crafty, she can sew, but she's not a knitter with a capital K. Like, you know, if you're watching this, it's very likely you're sort of like me and you knit all the time. If you're sitting, you're knitting. My mum's more of a, every now and then she'll knit something or she'll make something. So she was looking for a jumper to knit. She had a voucher for Morris & Sons, which is a yarn shop in Melbourne City, and she bought this lovely Rowan brushed fleece in I think the color is called Hush. It's number 270, and it's this beautiful sort of lavender color, and it's a bulky weight. So I think it's a blown, might be a blown yarn, or it's very fluffy and airy, and it sort of fluffs up and knits up quite a large gauge. So she got this with her voucher and was looking for a pattern to knit, and so I pointed her towards the Espace Tricot patterns, and she picked the Turtle Dove pattern, which I think a lot of people have knitted, and she's knit quite a lot of it, but it's starting to hurt her hands as I'm quite big needles, and and so she's asked if I can help her by finishing off the ribbing and the sleeves. So she's knit really beautifully the neck and the body, and she's popped the sleeves on hold, and she's down to she did one row of ribbing, and so I've picked that up for her and said, yes, I'll finish that off for you. And so I just need to finish the ribbing on this bulky weight sweater and then just knit the sleeves. And so that shouldn't go too long, or shouldn't take too long. And I thought I'd show you, not because I knitted all of this, I absolutely didn't, but I'm going to count it as a WIP, and because I will work on it, and it'll be worth showing at the end. So yeah, so that's the turtle dove, and I think she was making a size large. So there's not that many sizes in that pattern actually, but she's knitting the size large. So I will be finishing that one off for her. So they're the WIPs that I thought I'd show you, because they're the ones that I've worked on in the last couple of weeks. There's obviously others laying about the place, but haven't worked on any of those. So I did work on my DK jelly roll blanket, but I don't need to show you that one each time. I'll show you when it's got a little bit more progress, I think. Now, in the last episode, I did mention, in terms of new things or things we've done, I did mention I was looking for the sock project book, which I managed to find. So I have a copy of that by Summer Lee, which I'm very much looking forward to opening. I haven't cracked it open yet. I was wanting to finish off updating my own sock pattern first, and then this weekend I'm going to crack into this and see what I might look at casting on, maybe some colour work, because I haven't done much colour work in socks before, so that will be fun. And then I did want to show what the things that I picked up at the Wool and Fibre Day at Wollongorook, because, and I get this in the comments on the last two episodes, people are really not so much showing, you know, this is what I've got. People are really keen to see, you know, who the dyers are that are out there, to learn about new makers and dyers and you know, people that go to these markets. So I just wanted to show that, so that if it gives you any ideas of people that you might have a look at what they've got in their shops and what you might get. So I did try, we went for a drive. It was a lovely day. There's a great cafe in Wollongorook called the Three Little Pigs. So we got some nice brunch there, and we went to the Fibre Day. It was a very small kind of market, but it was great. There were some really great vendors there, some lovely dyers and makers, and I tried to sort of get at least something from each of the fibre stalls, because, you know, they drive all that way, they do all that work, and I'd like to support the local businesses. So the first thing I got was this huge skein of Averley Fin Sheep wool. So this is 8-ply or DK weight, and it's 100% pure Fin Sheep wool, and it's all naturally dyed. So I've used their yarn before, and it's really lovely. I've made a hat for my husband, and I got this in this sort of dark blue colour because I thought I could make some mitts and a hat for my daughter for school, because it sort of matches with her school uniform, which is a requirement. If she turns up in really colourful things, they'll ask her to take them off. So yeah, so that's why I got that one. So Averley Fin Sheep. Don't mind the crinkling. I then got a beautiful skein from Owl of Athena. So I've bought yarn from them before. This is in the colour Shadow Speak, and it's just this absolutely gorgeous variegated. I actually have another skein of this one skein in my stash, and I saw it and I thought, if I grab another one, I'll be able to make something that requires two skeins, because it is a shorter fingering weight. It's 365 meters. So some of those one skein projects, I wouldn't have enough. So I've got that. I got some beautiful self-striping fingering weight yarn from Half Baked Hand Dyed. So Danny, I've used her yarn before. I used them in the DK weight Canberra socks for my son, and I got some lovely colors of these. My husband is very much an enabler. He comes to these days with me, and he's always pushing me. I'll just get that one too. So we got lots of different colors because I know I'll use them. They're absolutely beautiful. Lots of self-striping. We also got some lovely yarn from Fluff Nonsense, which is a Victorian indie dyer as well, and this color just absolutely called out to me. It's dappled. It's lovely. And I got the bag that I showed you before, and I also got a few skeins of this from Melbourne City Dye Works. Oh, there's a, hang on, new label. A few skeins of this. This is 8 ply, so DK, and it comes in these little 50-gram skeins, and it's 90% merino, 10% recycled wool, 105 meters. So it looks grey, but if you get up close, you might be able to see it's actually got lots and lots of different kind of rainbow colors that are really subtle, but it looks really neutral from far away. So it's beautiful, and I just thought I got enough that I could make like a vest or something, and I'll have a look at some patterns. So if you have any suggestions for a vest or something in a DK weight, that this would be good. It's non-superwash, I think. Yeah, non-superwash. So it's got that lovely texture. Yeah, just let me know if you've got any pattern suggestions. Leave me a comment, and I'd be happy to make something with that someone suggests. And then I wanted to give you a heads up. There is another, because we're coming into the cold weather, there's another fibre event in Victoria, in Melbourne. So on June the 1st and 2nd, so the weekend of the 1st and 2nd, there's a yarn and craft market being run by the Hand Knit and Crochet Guild Victoria in Coburg. And so yeah, hop along to that, have a look. There'll be lots of vendors there, I think, and yeah, it should be an enjoyable day. So my plans for the next couple of weeks, so I need to keep slogging through my half and half triangles wrap. I really want to get that finished. Try and finish off my glittering snowscapes shawl, and the sleeves on those 2 jumpers that I've got going, really make some progress in those. And then if I do finish off any of those, I'd be able to then show you some more WIPs next time that might be sitting in the basket there lingering. And next week, I think, will be the release of my Canberra Socks pattern. So keep an eye out for that. That should be lots of fun. And it will be in time for summer sock camp. So you'll be able to cast on, even though we're not in summer in Australia, we can take part, and we can make really cozy socks, which is what these are. So that'll be lots of fun. So thank you so much for joining me again. I really enjoyed sharing all my makes with you, and I'm really enjoying all the comments and feedback that I'm getting. It's just a lovely community that we've made. So thank you very much. I'll see you next time, and happy making. Bye.